All right, I think we're live, rocking and rolling. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the Advisor Personal Branding Framework. And this branding framework comes from a few different frameworks that I've done and studied over the years, some specific to finance and some not specific to finance. And so this is my own that I've created that I think works best for the advisor. And what's cool about this framework is that this is something that an advisor can build upon when they create a firm or an ensemble someday. But for now, this also can be used. This is the same framework that I use for individual advisors and large ensembles. So there's not a different framework for those two stages. So let's walk through it and I can give you some best practices as you make your own framework. So I'm going to share a screen. Perfect. All right. So here is the 5-step personal branding framework for advisors. First is your why. So this is really that deeper purpose behind why you chose to go into this business. And I love getting to the heart of this because it really does spill out into everything that you do. And there's some really fun exercises that come along with this question. Why am I in business? Why do I do what I do? A lot of you have heard of Simon Sinek's TED Talk and book called Start With Why. That is basically this pillar of the framework. I almost want to make my own book called Start With Who, because that's the next part of the framework is your niche. And this is your who. And this is the most important thing, in my opinion, when you're doing a framework, because when you get this really laser focused, it does affect every single pillar of your brand and every single pillar of your business. So Simon Sinek starts with why, Emily Armstrong starts with who, and your niche is your audience of people who are bound together by one common problem, and it's deeper than a target market. So we'll talk about that in the next video of the 3-part niche framework. We'll go really deep into that. But for now, just know that your who is your who you serve. Your how is your core competencies. And this is really just another way to say your services. So a lot of people, advisors that I have seen, when they talk about their services, they'll say things like, we do tax planning and estate planning and investment planning. And while that is technically the service, what I like to help advisors do and shift is when they're talking about their services, no one really cares that you do tax planning or estate planning. That doesn't really mean anything to them. So I help advisors define, based off of their niche, what are the most important services to that niche, and how do you communicate those services in a way that really resonates with that prospect and your client? Because rather than saying, we help you with your stock options, what if you said something like, we help tech executives know what to do with their highly concentrated compensation plans? That's way more appealing to that niche than equity planning. So that's kind of the thing with your core competencies. I always say less is more. Some people like to think that more services on their website, for example, creates more credibility, but I think it actually has the opposite effect. So I think if you can choose 2 to 3 services and communicate them in crystal clear language to your niche's problem, that's the money. So that's what we do for core competencies. And the one-liner is your what. So a one-liner statement is kind of like taking all of that together and making what can be used in your prospecting, in your referral meetings, in your COI meetings. It's like your elevator pitch kind of on steroids. So this is the problem, solution, and impact statement. That's what a one-liner is. And this is amazing because if you get a really good one-liner statement, you can put that in your website, in your LinkedIn, and then you can splice that up for everything you do. So it's relevant for all your online materials and your offline materials when you're out and about in person, talking with your clients, etc. So a one-liner is essentially, the problem, solution, impact statement. all based upon your niche and your services and your positioning. And then finally, your uniqueness. So this is your values and story as an advisor, as a person, as a professional. Um, I think advisors, what I've seen with the uniqueness piece is that advisors, every one of us has a really different and unique background. Some of us might just be starting out in this career. Some of us come from a career changing position. And so I love working with advisors on their personal story because it's quite difficult to translate maybe all your past and your experience and your passion and expertise into what you do and why you work with the clients you choose to work with, but there's always a connection. And when you can tell that story, it's really powerful because it can add credibility to who you are. And when you create your expert bio, you know, you can if you get this storytelling right, you can position yourself as the relevant guide that your prospects need. So it creates humanness, and it also is just a way to connect with people. So the story is a really important piece of that. And the values piece, last but not least, is what are your values that you're going to instill in your firm. And so your values are a really important part of any brand foundation. Eventually, you should build your culture and hire and fire against values. And what I like to do with values is help an advisor take their personal values and communicate that in a way that it translates with their work and their clients. So, again, we can take these things that are extremely personal to us, like our values and our story, and translate that into our professional identity in a way that resonates and attracts our prospects and our clients. So there you have it, the 5-part personal branding framework for advisors. And in the next video, we're going to start with who and talk about the 3-part niche framework. And don't forget that in the digital brand setup kit, all of these have thought exercises and custom chat GPT prompts to help you get to what these elements are of your brand foundation. Thanks for listening. All right, stop recording. Okay, there we go. Stop recording.